Hello, I'm Dr. William Nelson. I want to make a little training tape. This is for the 2001 model, so I can explain to you a lot more about the system. I've made many changes over the last couple of months, changes which I'm sure you'll be enthusiastic about. And I hope that, that the people who are listening to this tape have already had some of the preliminary training, as that the purpose of this tape is to teach you some of the more advanced functions and some of the new functions. So I hope that this is not the very first training tape that you're watching. If it is, watch it, learn, but also get to the other training tapes. Now, we've taken the word TENS off the system. It's a complete biofeedback system, evoked potential biofeedback, which means that we are stimulating the body with a stimulus and measuring the response. This is the complete system, which now we have the CE mark for. So it is a complete evoked potential biofeedback system, capable of diagnosing stress and capable of treating stress. The machine is capable of diagnosis and treatment, and medical diagnosis and medical treatment. The device does not diagnose. The device is meant to be an assist for people in diagnosing. It is meant to be a second opinion and to help you. We're going to go through some of the homeopathy, new homeopathy functions, naturopathy, and a lot of the report-making processes. So I welcome you to this tape as we will now explain some of the new functions of the QXCI 2001. If you look on your monitor, you'll see that here's a satellite, which is the mouse. If you'd like that to stay on, if you click on this button, then we will have the satellite cursor through the entire screen everywhere we go. Language choices, this will offer you access to the French or German training manual, and eventually this button will start changing the system to all the different languages. If you're interested in the Japanese or the Chinese version, you have to contact those distributors. But the QXCI is now being written in over 7 different languages. We'll hit C to continue. A new function that has been added here is the shaping function. Down here we have the shaping function button, and I will go to that now. And here we have a list of the major neurotransmitters of the body. We can select any of these neurotransmitters that we're going to want to provide a reward of the patient. In the idea of this, let's take our value here of insulin, number 21, and if we hit engage, we can then set the reward percentage, which is default at 55, but let's go down to 50% here. Now, every time that we do any functions inside the device where the person has a better than 50% improvement before and after, we will get this little bit of a reward through the stimulation of insulin and the sound of the word excellent. That will come through the system to provide a reward system to help shape the patient to start submitting their insulin themselves more effectively. So insulin would be the choice of a diabetic. We might pick prostaglandin if there was an inflammation. We might pick cortisol if somebody was on steroids. But this will start to shape. Now, the default situation is love. Love has been added to the neurotransmitter matrix, specifically for the shaping system, so that then whenever we have a reward where the patient has performed well, we will give them an electrical dose of the love. This will help them to increase that love on their own, and they'll be through the process of classical conditioning, such as like Pavlov's dog, or through the phenomena of B.F. Skinner's shaping. We're going to be helping them to improve a type of behavior. So this is the new shaping function inside the QXCI. And up here will appear the percentage of improvement. Now, the percentage of improvement on this might be different than some of the rectified functions that you see, because percentage of improvement is a little different than the rectified. It has to do with before and after improvement, whereas rectified might not always be a before and after measure. So you might not always be getting the reward at certain times that you might think from your program. Whereas here, if you come back to this label at this part, you will get the perfect reading that tell you when the reward is being submitted. I will close that panel for now, and I will go down to the password screen where we now can look and see the number of tests that we've done and our name, making sure that this is the proper software that was made and delivered to us. Today is the anniversary of the Zeroid patent, so that's why this has come up. And if I click on this yellow panel, it will disappear. The Add Faculty button has been put down here onto the bottom, where now you can read about the system, some of the work done on pair, some of the work done on adding faculty, which means by adding people who will be helping you in using your device. People who might not even be there every day, but people who will be on your, quote, advisory board. People who will be on your faculty. You can put their name, address, birth date, etc. into this information. And this will be kept in a file, as then you would then save it. So this is the faculty access. This is an addition that was done under request from Garnet Dupree. Also down here we have our safety certificate, efficacy certificate. The speech button here, if we click on the speech button, every show message panel that comes up will be spoken. We can do this for children, etc., different places. I'll show you. But if we click on it here, it will turn it on for the entire system. I will not do that because it will detract. But if I want the computer to speak to me, I click on the speech function. 0210 is the standard password upon putting in your program. And if you want a different password, you can use the Save Password button. Up at the top, we have the Stop Music from CLASP, which will allow us to stop all the little sounds from inside CLASP, allowing the computer to thereby play some music from the CD player. I can put in one of our healing music forms on the CD player and allow the patient to listen to that through the headphones, or perhaps use the QXCI goggles for that. Under demographics, some new things have been added. If the patient was pregnant on the last time, the form will flash about pregnancy. And now we can go here, go to the button. If we are adding a new patient, we will only have the new patient. We will first need to add that on the first page. Whereas since we did not add a new patient, that button is now disabled. So I can go down here and choose a current patient, or an old patient, and I now hit load. So it's a little safety measure, so it will stop you from being able to put an old patient in as a new patient, or a new patient as an old patient. That's what has been added. Under personal stress, if the number greater than 7 has been entered, a new set of questions will come up that will be able to tell us more about the stress. Rating interpersonal stress, school stress, struggles with self-stress, sickness, family stress, desire for things to be different, and then problems with bowel sweat and other detoxification. These are not stored from visit to visit, but are needed to be added with each visit for the computer to properly work with that. Many other parts of the system are basically the same. And now we can go down to the close button. No biorhythms concerns came up. We go to calibration. Some new graphicons. And if up here, load patient picture. If you want to load a patient's picture from either a floppy or from a CD or some other place on the computer, you can click on this button. It will bring up this to allow us to load the patient. Once we load the patient, then we will get their picture. We can load a patient's picture in here. When that is ready, we now hit the R button. So we click on the resistance, 1, 2, 3 with the down arrow. This will take us through all the different steps of the calibration process, which we've covered in our other training manuals. Computer now is calibrating to the electrical, and since we do not have a patient have the system hooked up, the machine is using a subspace resonant factor. We go to test. Under test, we've expanded the screen to give you better vision. I will now do the test. I will break in the system and do the test, and we will return. We've done the test. We removed the info. And now we have a better vision of being able to see the factors. I've added SAR codes. I'll be able to look at different SAR codes. And now we can grab a SAR code, which the number 1 in this test is the trapezius muscle. We can grab it, drag drop it with the mouse, and we have 2 hold trays now, where now I've put the trapezius muscle SAR code into the hold tray. And I can test it, so I now load up bacteria, and I'm going to test which bacteria is most resonant with this trapezius muscle. And I click on this button, and the computer now has picked Q fever rickettsia to resonate with that. Let's go back to SAR codes, or let's take an amino acid. We'll go to amino acids, a new category. And the number 1 amino acid is cysteine and serine. Let's grab serine. And let's drop that into the other hold tray. Now I want to see which of the minerals resonates with that. So I now loaded up the mineral matrix. And I click on this item, and now it's going to go through, and it says magnesium chloride, a mineral combination, is the most resonant one with the serine. So now I can drag drop different factors like manganese and put that into this hold tray. And let's look at which flower essence resonates with that. And what do we find? We find plum. High item to the top. So now this is going to be able to allow us to pick and put things into the hold tray and then look at. If we want to return to the main matrix by clicking on color coding, we can return now to the main matrix. And if I want to filter from the main matrix, I need to click on this button here. It says filter from the main matrix, or filter from the subfile. The default option is we can only filter from the subfiles of these items. New ones have been imponderables and SAR codes and amino acids and minerals and the oriental herbs and some of the new things that we can go to, or the viruses and the muscles and the chromosomes. And we can load them up here. And if I want to click on this, we can then only filter from the subfiles, or if I click on main matrix, we can filter from the main matrix. Because the main matrix and the subfiles are organized differently, so we're going to have to use this button to allow us to use those filters. But this is a new function that's been added to allow you to grab an item, quickly and easily put it into the hold tray, mobile telephone radiation. Let's see which of the vertebrae that is most resonant to. And what do we find? We find vertebrae L3 is the most resonant to the mobile telephone. Click on the color coding and it brings us back to that. So this is something new that's been added. We've added a whole bunch of new programs, including a direct access to the allergy test and treatment. Going directly into the allergy treatment now. We'll close up the little movie video so we won't have to listen to it. We can enlarge that video. Go to the hour-sodes. And now what's new has been added to the hour-sodes is that we have now added here on the bottom the phenol listing. If phenols appear in both, you need to go up here and hit the Organize Allergy by Value button to bring this into allergy. And this button on the bottom will bring the phenols. So we get a list of the phenols and the allergies to see how they are involved. There are questions about the allergies. We can ask questions. A series of questions that will appear. We can say yes if we want to use the questions. Does the list of allergies seem correct? Many different questions that are asked to us about the allergen of the person. And from the questions and how we ask them, diagnostic criteria will appear here in red, which will explain what the computer has found from those questions concerning this patient. We also now can look for an emotional link with these allergies, focused mind, perfectionistic, and find a link up with the emotions to the allergies with this button. The allergy report appears here if we want to directly access it. The allergy info. If we double click on an item, we will be throwing it into the allergy report. Allergy notes on provocative allergies. Under individual allergies, the first question is, do we want to empty the allergy report? If we say yes, we will empty what we've had before. We only say no if we have interrupted the system, if there's been a power failure and we don't want to lose what we've gotten. But I'm going to say yes because now we are emptying the value from before, from the last couple of patients. Now I can double click on an item, throwing it into the allergy report. And as we double click on these items, we can see that the allergy report is getting bigger. These are the items that are now stored into the allergy report. And if I go into the allergy report, I can now access them, current examination, and load the allergy report up for printing. This is the preview of what it will look like so far in my allergy report. I will cancel that and close. But here's the allergy report that started. Now I go to allergy therapy, new button up here. Takes me right in, and with this button, I now load everything I double-clicked on is automatically loaded into the type of allergies. I now only have to add the body areas affected and the allergic symptoms. So I was working with the allersodes, the sarcodes, and the nosodes as I now apply a NLP, electrical interfaced autofocusing therapy to the patient. And here, some new factors have been added. We can release mental fixation, relieve inflammation, histamine cascade, redness, sneezing, mast cell excess. And these can all be piggybacked onto the therapy. We can set the automatic default. This therapy will take about 4 minutes to do in normal, but we can extend the time by as many minutes as we wish by using this button and making the therapy, the allergy therapy, longer. Clicking on this button will take us right back to the allergy page. So now we have better access to the allergies. We can look at the phenols, treat a phenol. Wherever this arrow, little black arrow, is pointed, this will be the treatment if we use for the treat phenol. And we have a very complete allergy page to allow us to see more of the allergy work. And we have direct access of that here at the bottom of programs. Under Change the World movie promo, this will necessitate you putting into your CD player the number 2 program. And from that, the executable program of Change the World will allow you to see a short little promo on all of the little videos that we have about our movies, so that you'll be able to understand more about the size of the work that the Change the World production company is working on with the different movies. That's a little add to it. Muscle testing is a little program that helps us to understand a little bit about muscle testing and has a computer muscle testing program inside of it. Wellness, visual, audio, each of these will be explained on other training CDs, but they have been added to the program. Let's go to biorhythms here, which is underneath report. Biorhythms will automatically appear when we close the demographics, and this automatically will appear if there's a biorhythm, but in this patient it did not appear. Now we can start in the patient we did today, which is me, and we see there's no real biorhythm concerns today. But something new has been added under medical astrology, where now many different factors have been added to the medical astrology, including a number of risks of different ages that from the original birth pattern of the stars, these are probably the most likely risk years for that patient, and some new psychological and also food conditions for their entire life will come up. These are for the entire life, not for today, under medical astrology. This is from the stars that existed at the time of their birth. The change in those stars as through time would also be reflected here, giving us the risk years. The factors that appear here under the biorhythms are risks of just today. And if we go to the next good day button, will allow us to come down here. If we keep double-clicking onto the little atom down here at the bottom, we get access to compatibility scores. We can look at compatibility of one patient to another patient. Up here at the top, we have the Children Talk program, which is new. We load up the name of the patient, but we could change that. We could put in my son's name, which is Sterling. So let's say that Sterling's in the room. Now we can have the computer, we click on the Load Speech program, load it up, and we now have the computer to speak.
Hello, Sterling. How are you today?
So now we can have the computer directly talk to the boy, to the child that's in the room with us, and it just improves relations. We can get advice, affirmations, answer to a yes or no question, close. And if we do not unload the speech when we close, the computer will continue to have speech with every, let's just close here. Every time there's a show message, we can hear, see, we'll say goodbye, and we'll keep this. Every show message that comes up will be spoken if we don't close it. So we need to do that. We need to go up here and unload the speech program if we don't want the computer to keep speaking to us. We can turn that off, as you can see. That's closed. This is back onto the biorhythms page. The developer intro movie, you can bring up a little movie with Dr. Bill Nelson on it. That's me. And if you don't like it, it starts to run on too much, blabbering, double click, it'll go away. And we close out there. And let's go to some of the other new things. Now let's go to the therapy page. We're going to do the auto meridian therapy. And to do that, we're going to click on the Start Meridian Therapy, and the machine will start to work doing the auto acupuncture program. Now, as it does this program, it's going through all the different acupuncture meridians and harmonically looking at the patient's reaction to the energy of these different points. The computer should know the time of birth and the day of birth so that it can estimate different things about how old they are, as there'll be different reactivity patterns. So it's important to have a fairly correct date of birth on many different programs, including this one. The computer is looking at the different reactions and then charting out these different reactions. After we get through the first analysis, it will bring up some meridians that were of concern or problems, and then it will give us a chance to retest. Now the retest button is located here. I will now take a break, and I will come back to you after doing the retest. Now we've done the different tests. We found where the problems are. We go to AcuPoint. And here, these are points that the computer was unable to fix. We go to the picture program. And the picture program now has a new button on the bottom, not on this patient, but on certain women at certain ages. A button will come up allowing us to ask if the person is pregnant. Computer can give us an idea by testing reactivity patterns and giving us a probability answer, not a distinct absolute, but it can give us some idea possibly if they're pregnant. Also, a warning will pop up if they are. Here's the superconscious choice. We can ask the computer to pick one point from the matrix, bring it up, or a series of points where there's problems. But these are the points we want to treat. We can either treat them directly and go to each one, load them up, type the individual points in up here, or we can go to the consciousness form test and load up all the points. When we load up all the points, it will allow us to quickly and easily chart all the points. Take the points from the AccuSystem, and it takes all the points from the AccuSystem. And down here at the bottom we have the Start button. Start button, which will then tell us, go through and give us an idea of treating all those points. I will do that Start button now, and then I will return when it is done. So now that we can close this out, going back to our original page, we get an AccuDiagnosis, which is most accurate if we do it at the end. And here we can get little statements about what are the problems. We get a chance to repair these, draw a chi diagram, red appearing where there is inflammation and blue appearing where there is degeneration in the chi diagram, flow through the body. We can get these into a report. And I will go down here to the Close button. Another thing we can do in the computer is everything that a homeopath does. We go to the homeopathic activation, and we can now load the homeopathic remedy list by clicking on this button here to show by value. We can see the classic homeopathic list from here, and we can get a list at the bottom of the different energies from the classic list, value order, of the homeopathics from the value. This is the original list of the Kansada, that's the main matrix, and up here in this color we have the matrix as it appears from just the classic homeopathics. If we want to do everything a homeopath will do, we then go to the Show Repertory panel, and here we have a series of questions, just as Hahnemann would ask, regarding about the patient. We should ask these questions directly, without trying to lead the patient. So we would say a question like, what is the primary disease? Not saying to the patient, your problem is headache. We would not want to ask that question. We would want to say something directly to get the patient's description. What makes it better? What makes it worse? What are the sensations of the mind, mental sensations? What sensations do you have in the head? What are head sensations? Very simple, very direct questions which we will ask the same way every time. This would be the perfect homeopath to Hahnemann, as that the computer will now not start making decisions until it is done. Once we have loaded up all the changes, and we've typed in as many as we can, we only need to type anything that's apropos or anything that's significant. If there's no answer from the patient, we leave that area empty. We go to Load and Prepare Scan, which will now load that information into the computer, allowing the computer to start its analytical process. We now close. We go to the Scan Homeopathic, and up here we have the Scan Homeopathic Singular. And now the remedy list of the homeopathic singulars will be rechecked, reevaluated in light of the repertory process that we have put on to our input screen. Thus, everything that a homeopath does is now on the screen. We see that the highest value is homeopathic adrenaline, Merck Sulf, squash, ferrum phos, other things that have been here. We can see that the higher the number, the more likely the connection to that patient. By double-clicking on an item, we load it up into the treatment grid. We've double-clicked on these items. We put them into the treatment. Now let's scan for potency. It's best when we scan for potency to only use one item, so I'm going to go right down to just adrenaline. We go access scan for potency, and I'm going to start the main scan. Now the computer is starting to analyze that adrenaline with the patient to see just which is the best potency for this patient to be utilized. Some of my default music is on here, not music or not sounds you would get, but sounds that appear on my computer. Speaking of which, something new has been added. If you have a homeopathic that you believe, if you're a homeopath and you have a homeopathic you would like to check its resonance, you could type it in here. You could type it in and ask the computer, as we change this, we can ask the computer now to check the homeopathic reactivity of the patient. So now we have completed our scan for potency. We find the X potency. If we double click in here, we send this potency value into the screen up here under potency. So now we've loaded up resonant frequency, we've loaded up an item, we scan for potency, we can show the harmonic frequencies. This is the highest reaction. These are other reactivity numbers which were significant but not necessarily the highest. Down here in the bottom, as we said, we can check a homeopathic, so if there's a different homeopathic you would like to check by adding it into this column, you can now check the name of that, check that homeopathic, and get a similia percentage about what you believe the homeopathic that you choose, which might be different from what the patient's unconscious has chosen. Keep in mind that the reactivity patterns here are not from the computer, but from the patient's unconscious. Now that we have loaded up a homeopathic, the patient's name that's here is the patient we are treating, unless we reset something. We have set the tray to, we've set the system tray, harness, virtual, or all. We have it set on all. Amplify. And now, if we want to start the therapy or duplication by putting a homeopathic or ampules or pills or water and alcohol, etc., or just water, onto the top of the test tray, we can duplicate, and since we have set all, we are also sending the information into the harness. I was set on the duplication, and the system is now started for its duplication and treatment. It's a good idea, once we have picked one of the first bottles of homeopathic, that we should put it onto the grid so that throughout all of the testing, the different electrical patterns that we are using throughout the different therapies are then stored into the bottle. This will help give the patient a redose of all of those therapies over the next couple of days. The system will now go through and is sending the homeopathic to the patient by virtual, by tray, by harness, so that we can duplicate those items, etc. If we click on the zap and do that, we will then get a 3-minute process to it. We can click on the homeopathic constitutional button and go through a scan of the patient's constitutional remedies and get those, of what they've done. On this page we get a listing of all the different items. We can ask for possible concerns, similia, best biophysical similar, best mental emotional similar, constitutional remedies. We can then go through the process of looking at all those different items. Back to our homeopathic page, and now we can do everything that a homeopath does very quickly, very easily, very automatically, with very little training, but yet with more precision than most homeopaths. Is that Hahnemann tried to teach his homeopaths not to get to preliminary conclusions before they were done. At the end of the very, very process is the time that they should be looking and be surprised at what remedy comes out of the system. Whereas most homeopaths start formulating ideas of remedies within the first 2-3 minutes and then spend the rest of the time validating those. With this, we have a perfect system of classic homeopathy that Hahnemann would love, because it would be done the same way every time, and it would be the patient's unconscious process guiding the results, not the forced ideas of the therapist. So we would have a perfect form of homeopathy. Okay, now we can close out this homeopathic page, having done everything a homeopath will do. Now if we go to the spinal sarcode button, we can load up the major sarcodes from here and go directly to a organ chart showing us the different organs, highs and lows, treating those highs and lows with therapy, looking at the different organ sarcodes. I will close that now. And here we can do therapy for the spine. Now I'll click on this first one and talk while it's happening. Because now what we are doing is we're doing what a chiropractor would do, only energetically. So we're energetically looking at the reaction of each of the different vertebrae, not just the vertebrae, but also the circulatory, the cartilage, the ligament factions, the connective tissue, the blood analysis, the energetic analysis, the nerve analysis, all around each of those vertebrae energetic areas. Since we have those and we're going to get those scores posted on the machine, that's going to be able to then tell us where the probability of different dysfunction is. Now this should also be coupled with adjustment for perfect reactions. That this is not designed to take the place of adjustment, but to facilitate adjustment as before and after test of what areas might be of concern. Certain areas will appear in the patient's body that do not appear on the machine because of unconscious reactivity problems. Thereby, we need to know how to treat that. Certain areas will appear in the machine and not in the patient's body because of possibility of unconscious conscious lack of awareness. So once we have gotten that, we get an idea of where the areas are. We can then do the test many different times. We can do it with emotional controls, etc. We can go to the area of the dermatomes and directly treat these areas. We can directly treat other different areas. And we are working now with the flow of energy through the spine. This also is a page that has sarcode material on it. We've added some new functions. One of the new functions that has been added is on the circulatory button, a series of different buttons which will allow us to get quality electrochelation therapy to the patient, meaning that we'll be able to stimulate the chelation of material out of the blood, the bad type of calcium deposits and arteriosclerosis, etc. The computer can now dramatically help affect that, as I have put in a lot of electrochelation programs into the system to help perfect that part of the program. The program is going through its final process, and then we will go to the circulation page to see the results of the circulation page. And now we can go to the chiropractic report page and get a system of understanding of each one of those treatments on the different parts of the body. We can load the chiropractic report into the computer, and we will be able to look at that sometime in the future. We have access to the hour-sode page, the sarcode page, and the time therapies, where selections will be for us to be able to do time therapies. But here under circulation, we are now asked if we want to use the questions. Now, if we use the questions under circulations, I'll say yes. And if we use these different questions, from our answers of the questions, down at the bottom will appear a panel which will help tell us where the problems are in the circulatory problem. And also a couple of new areas will come up which will allow us to do the electrochelation program. So we've expanded the circulatory as well as many of the other types of therapies under these different areas of sinus, eyes, bones, lymph, many other areas. We've expanded the procedure. So now we've loaded that up in our report. Now back to the screen. If we go to the Nelson report, computer remembers what we've been doing. We can ask when the next visit is best to the unconscious. We can tell the computer to make a Nelson report by throwing all the different information that it might want from different areas. I'm going to turn the volume down here so I don't have to listen to that anymore. And has come up with a Nelson report, which I can now add to the info file. And in the Nelson report, we're going to get the cause of disease, the possible cause of disease, the possible factors, etc. We'll go to close. We've added new factors into the risk profile, which we'll be talking about in some of the other training tapes. I will load the current patient from what we've done. And we have a new button allowing us to look at the risk factor by value, highest value, by number, by value. And the selection of the color sometimes comes in a little different because the computer's given that ability. And we have a load all graphs. So I've loaded all the different graphs that have come up into the page. Now I close these pages when they come up. And we're able to load all the different graphs. We've done the Nelson program. We've done the homeopathy program. We've done all of these. And now a new is the chart maker. We can go to the chart maker report. And here we've given the name of the patient, and we can start printing with the button on the bottom. We start printing a color page of material. Page number 2 tells us of causes, aggravations, physical blockages, emotional blockages, giving us areas we need to type in. Under acupuncture, since we've done the acupuncture test, now a complete one-page acupuncture report will come, telling us where the problems were, telling us where the different factors of too much flow in the chi diagram was, giving us a complete list of all the different diagnoses under acupuncture. And a one-page print report which will tell us about the acupuncture. The Nelson report, make the Nelson report. And here we have a one-page type of the causes and factors on the Nelson report. The chiropractic report gives us a complete report of what we did in our chiropractic test. The nutrition report would give us, if we've done the nutritional page, will give us a complete nutritional report. Homeopathy, a complete list of one-page report on the homeopathics. Naturopathy, and a chart of the causes. And we can see this is the causes of disease, which is animated. And if I click on the rotate small, it will stop, or allow me to just rotate once at a time. The highest value will stick out, and we will get a number value, and it will be the largest. Lack of awareness, interpersonal stress, trauma, all the way down to the bottom. This is the causes. Risks, list of the risks of disease. Aggravations of disease, the factors that aggravate the disease, a new factor has been added. Emotions, organs, neurotransmitters. And this is hard to see in the neurotransmitters. I apologize for the size, but I couldn't get it to display too much better in this form. And finally, a solutions page. A page now where we can get to the bottom of the final heart of what's going on with this patient. Here on this page, we have a series of different questions that I'd like to explain to you that go deeper into an insight about how to deal with the tougher, deep quality problems in a patient. First question, define your symptom profile. Many people get a disease into their mind, not from the symptoms, but from a diagnosis. In other words, they think they have candida. Candida is not a symptom. The symptoms would be headache, irritability, bloating, food allergies, etc. Those would be the symptoms. Sometimes when we study the true symptom profile of the patient, we will find that the symptom profile does not fit the diagnosis that they have carried in their mind. So we want to analyze this. I want to know exactly what is their symptom profile. Next, I want to operationalize the key symptom in that I want to know how much and how far it extends. How often does it occur and how far does it extend? If there's headache, how many times do they have a headache? What is the intensity of the headache? I want to get a firm description of those values. I want to operationalize and intellectually understand exactly their symptom picture, and I also want to understand how intense it is. When they come back, I'd like to be able to share with them as there's improvement, because many patients there is dramatic improvement. However, the patient has switched their idea to a new disease, and the negativity in their own brain does not allow them to recognize the healing that the QXCI has provoked. Next question, what triggers these symptoms? Because once we understand totally the symptom package, then we'd like to know what is the triggers. What triggers that headache? Is it stress? Is it a bad day? Is it lack of oxygen? Is it a certain food? What are the triggers? Very important. Next question. What makes it better? What makes that symptom better? What improves it? What gives even the slightest bits of relief? How can we understand what improves that? Now, this is part of a homeopathic understanding, but it's very important for us to involve homeopathy in everything we do. What are the personal suggestions of how other medical staff have given a diagnosis? In other words, they might have told the person they have cancer. The person thereby accepts the diagnosis of cancer mentally, whereas the diagnosis of cancer might not be correct. We lose the individualness when we give these diagnoses. That's one of the reasons why I don't want to do diagnoses, because I lose the individualness of the patient. What I would like to have is a better understanding of the total symptoms of this patient, rather than an intimate idea of what diagnosis they have, because that's very limiting. Now, I'd like to know individually what are the exact symptoms, triggers, the extent of those symptoms. What is exactly going on with this patient individually? And let's try to now, with a couple of questions, let's try to set them free of the limitations of that diagnosis. Next question. What other notions, beliefs, rumors, innuendos about the disease profile block and limit the cure? In other words, do they have ideas about their, quote, diagnosis which limit their lives, their thinking, their heart, their mind? How can we set them free from the limitations that have been imposed on them, possibly by other healthcare practitioners? And the last question, do you believe that natural and energetic medicine can represent a cure? So we'd like to be able to find out at some point in our interview, do they really believe in what we're doing? Do they believe in our natural energetic medicine? And sometimes we'll find out that the lack of their belief might hinder the effectiveness of what we're doing. It won't stop it. What we're doing is powerful. What we're doing works. It won't stop it. But it might hinder it and block it. We'd like to know a little bit about that. So from this series of questions, once typed in, we now can hit calculate. And what the computer will do now, the computer has recognized from the SOC that we've given it, from all the different therapies we've given it, the computer now develops a solutions page that is designed to take this patient, recognize what we've done, and offer a list of suggestions of what this person needs to do in lifestyle, in homeopathy, in naturopathy, in water, in exercise, and many other things. And it will come on first this yellow page, which actually will recommend a type of QXCI therapy and how long to do it. We can ask the computer to change that to even make another suggestion. Or we have the final page, which will tell us where the problems are, in what parts of the nutritional system, what are the suggestions or solutions. Because if I want the best possible results for this patient, absolutely quantitatively, how do I get the best possible results? I've tried to make a page to access everything that we've told it and to come up with one page that will help to get to the heart of the maximized health care for this patient. This is now what I call the solutions page. We can throw this into the report menu, or we can go down here and hit print, and if we hit print, we will get a page directly printed of that page, or we can do it from the report. So I've given you a whole bunch of little animations, graphs to look at, to help to understand naturopathy, homeopathy, chiropractic, nutritional. So I've tried to make a whole set of reports, color reports that are nice and pretty and easy to look at, easy to read, something to take home for the patient. And I tried to put it in such a way that you can get this into your printer. And finally, take you to an entertaining animation page and a solutions page, maximizing the results. So much of energetic medicine has been devised about how to sell a homeopathic or nutritional, and that is just a small part of holistic medicine. Holistic medicine is really much more than just a homeopathic, just a nutrition, just a vitamin pill. Exercise, meditation, stress reduction, emotional growth, on and on and on. Good water, good air, so much more important oftentimes than that homeopathic. I want us to set ourselves free into holistic medicine, not just how to sell another item, how to set ourselves free from that multi-level clinging to one type of item, panacea for all people, etc., or even a large quantity of homeopathics. I want to set us free from that. I want to develop a true holistic medicine where in the space of 1 hour we can measure, get to, find, develop, work with, maximize, do therapy, do diagnosis, do treatment, and get to the heart of the matter with this patient and be able to do the maximum amount of good that holistic, natural, energetic medicine can. In order to do that, this system is now 1 gigabyte of operating space. I apologize for its extensiveness, but I think it is needed. I think you'll enjoy the new system. The disease dictionary, and there'll be some other different training systems. But I just wanted to introduce you now to some of the just basic new systems. As you go through, you're going to see some new exciting buttons. You're going to play with them. You'll have fun. We're always in a process of growth. We listen to the comments that you have, even some of the most petty ones. And I get them all. And please, do not tell me that there's a spelling error without telling me where it is, because it just allows me to make pretty much a strange judgment of your personality. So please help us to develop it and help us to make it better. Become part of the organic process. We want to give the most possible holistic health possible inexpensively to our patients. So this is Dr. Nelson signing off. I hope it's been entertaining. I hope you've learned something. And look at some of our others.